Welcome to Hotze Elite Physicians Podcast, where you'll learn how to help your patients obtain and maintain health and wellness naturally, and how you can have more time, more money, and more freedom to enjoy your life. And now your host, Dr. Hotze.
Hello, this is Dr. Steve Hotze, and I believe you need a coach to build a successful medical practice. I also believe you need to learn how to coach your patients on a path of health and wellness so they can enjoy a better quality of life. And I believe that if you'll do this, then you're going to have more time, more money, and more freedom to enjoy your life. It's my pleasure today to introduce to you one of the first physicians in the greater Houston area that we trained in our business and medical protocols back in the mid-2000s. It's Dr. Sakina Davis, and Dr. Davis has a health and wellness practice located in the Woodlands. It's entitled the Woodlands Wellness Center. Now, the Woodlands is a city north of the city of Houston, between Houston and Conroe, and it's a growing area. As a matter of fact, Exxon has their main worldwide headquarters there in the Woodlands. So there's been rapid growth in that area with several hundreds of thousands of people moving in just the last 10 years. So Dr. Davis is in a great growth area of the city, and I met Dr. Davis back around 2004, 2005, and was so encouraged because she is a very quick start. And when she heard about what we were offering through that time, which was the American Academy of Bioidentical Hormone Therapy, she contacted us, and we built a strong relationship, and she adopted our business and medical protocols and has had and built a wonderful, successful medical practice that she helps literally thousands and thousands of people get their lives back. And surprisingly, they're willing to compensate her handsomely for her services. So, Sakina, Dr. Davis, welcome to the Hotze Elite Physician Podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
Dr. Davis, why don't you give us a little background about yourself so our listening audience can get to know you? Where were you from? Where did you go to school? Where did you go to medical school? And what did you end up doing after medical school? And how did you get led into doing a natural wellness practice? How did that come about? So why don't you just fill us in on those details about your life so we can know you better?
Okay, sounds great. So I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, had always known that I wanted to be a physician ever since I was probably 5 years old. Ended up going to medical school in Augusta, Georgia at the Medical College of Georgia. From there, I went on to do my residency in Jacksonville, Florida, and completed my family practice residency at St. Vincent's Medical Center. From there, we ended up moving back to Houston, Texas, because my husband, George Davis, who's also a physician, was born in Houston. And apparently, when you are from Houston, you must return. So
you did.
So off we moved from Florida to Texas, and he established in his emergency medicine practice. And I found a local family practice in the Woodlands, Texas, and started to work there really just part-time because I had a 6-month-old baby at the time. And I knew that I wanted to still pursue working, but I also wanted to be home with him some. So I worked part-time for about 4 years with that family practice and really enjoyed it.
And what years was that?
That was 2000 to 2004.
Right.
And so towards the end of that time period, I actually, my husband was working in Tomball and met Dr. Kimberly Schroeder, who you had also trained, and came to me and said, there's this doctor in Tomball who does some really neat stuff. I think you should talk to her and meet her. So I actually went out and met her first and was just floored at what she was doing. I thought, this is amazing. And by that time, having been in a traditional family practice here for 4 years, I had become pretty much the #1 writer of antidepressants, birth control pills, all of our standard prescriptions that we usually give in traditional family practice. I was pretty frustrated because I thought to myself many times during those years, there must be something else that I can do to actually help these people feel better. So I was, when I met Dr. Schroeder and heard what she had learned from you, I just knew that that had to be a better way and more rewarding as a physician to actually be able to help people. So I went over to your center and met with your staff and met with you, and thankfully you accepted me into your program. And that's how I decided to learn more about this. And honestly, from the very beginning, meeting with you, meeting with Dr. Sheridan, Dr. Ellsworth, it just opened my eyes to so many different things that I knew, that I felt like in the back of my mind that there was other ways I could treat my patients. And so it just made so much more sense to me to practice this way.
Okay, so you were in a family practice at that time. And
Yes.
So how did you make the transition? I know this is many physicians, they feel the rub of, they're having to basically satisfy the insurance companies and follow their practice guidelines. They're getting slow paid by the insurance companies, and the insurance companies aren't reimbursing them for their full fees, and they have administrative costs going up all the time, and they're getting squeezed in most physicians. Now, you were working for a family physician group, so you weren't primarily in charge of that practice then, were you?
No, sir, I was not. So I was just paid as a part-time employee.
Right.
And really the way I started this was thanks to you and your group. So when we initially came in to learn the medical part of the training, we also were offered the business part of the training, which was definitely a big advantage for me, because I did not have that business training or business sense. So really, it was the Hotze group that actually helped me establish the Woodlands Wellness and Cosmetic Center. So I really owe it all to you, to be very honest.
Well, it's like anything in life. You can get a coach, and they can make some recommendations, but you're the athlete, and the athlete has to follow the coach's directions to get to maximize their potential. And so we made recommendations to you. We laid out a business plan, how you operate a medical practice like a business, because it is a business. And this is one thing I want to stress, that there are many physicians go like, well, I'm a doctor, I'm not a businessman. A business is any activity in which money is exchanged for goods or services. Every physician receives money in exchange for the services they provide. By definition, they're in a business. And if you're in a business, why not run it like a business? And unfortunately, most physicians have little or no schooling in how to operate a business. They sure don't teach you that in medical school.
No, they don't. That's very sad. I wish they did.
And so you come out, you don't know what to do. And basically you get hooked into the insurance, you sign on with these insurance companies, and next thing you know, they're running your practice. And then you want to find out, then you go, maybe the idea is I have to go work for a hospital, and then I can get out from then to the insurance companies. Now you're under the thumb of the hospital. And basically the doctors become the slaves or the indentured servants of the insurance companies or of the hospitals, and they don't have any freedom. So they have little time, because all their time is spent seeing 40, 50, 60 patients a day, and they have little money because their insurance is slow paying 90, 120 days and dramatically discounting their services, and their expenses are going up. So, they're getting squeezed in the middle, and they don't have more money, and they don't have any freedom to enjoy their lives. And they've done studies where a vast majority of people that practice medicine today say if they knew it was going to be like this, they would have not gone into medicine. So I
totally agree with that statement.
Back
then, I don't think we were aware that we were going to be treated like this. And so I feel for most of my other local, physicians who are not trying to learn how to manage their own business, because they are being bought up by the hospitals and things. And it's a very, it's not what we all went into for medicine.
Right.
We get to treat our patients the way we want to. We don't get to establish a relationship. The insurance dictates what we prescribe, what tests we can order, and everything. And it's very frustrating.
So you and your husband, George, made a decision back in 2004. You came in here. We taught you our medical business protocols. What steps did you take then to establish your current practice? What did you end up doing? Where did you get the money to establish your practice?
Well, I was able to take out a loan for beginning I started with a very small space, about 2,500 square feet. And between my husband, we actually, of course, relied on my husband's salary at the time to begin the practice and my parents' support. And through all that and a loan, we were able to begin the construction of the practice. So we found a small space, of course, hired an office manager and a medical assistant, and off we went. So we, with your support and your help, your staff continued to come and help me and get everything established and help me with the business protocols. And then away we rolled. So a few years later, we expanded to 4,500 square feet, and now we have moved and expanded to 7,000 square feet.
So how long did it take you to pay off your initial loan
So it took us about 2 years to pay off that initial loan. And then I did have to take an extended loan out for the expansion to the 4,600 square feet. And of course, that took a little bit of time as well. But soon after that, we were pretty good. And then, of course, when I moved to this bigger space, that has set me back a little bit, but still working on that. So I think the problem is not, it's just that it's so expensive to build out now. So I would encourage, if the physicians already have a space, to, of course, use their own space or find a space that doesn't have as much overhead. That was one thing that I think I need to stress with a lot of physicians, is that we need to be careful about our overhead.
Well, that's true. And you know what overhead is now. And I assure you never heard that term in medical school about overhead. But once you open up your own practice, you finally figure out what expenses are. And, this is real simple. Doctors, if I were to ask you right now, could you give me the 3 elements of a profit and loss statement? Most of you would not be able to do that. And it's very simple. A profit and loss statement, which you should have every month in your practice, you should have a profit and loss statement. A profit and loss statement has 3 elements. First element is your gross revenue, how much money you take in from all the billings that you have. That's your gross revenue. The second is your expenses. And your gross revenue minus your expenses gives you the bottom line, which is either a profit or loss. Now, in many medical practices, they operate by an accrual system, because they are billing insurance for their various procedures. They put those on the books, and those are put on the books as full income. So you may charge $1,000 for a procedure. When you receive income from the insurance company, they may have discounted it to $250, but you said on the books you had $1,000. There's a $750 difference or loss of income that you didn't receive from the insurance company. But it shows up on the books as $1,000 until the end of the year, when your accountant would write off whatever the insurance company didn't pay you in an accrual system. So oftentimes doctors look like they're making a lot more money than they really are, because they're carrying the full price of their service on the top line, the gross revenue. If you operate a cash-based practice and you don't use the accrual system, you only count the revenue that you receive. If you bill $1,000 and somebody pays you $1,000, that's on the books. In a cash-based practice, you're not being discounted by the insurance companies. And what, Sakina, now, if I could ask, when you left your practice of family medicine for which you were contracting your labor for, when you went into practice for yourself, did you start doing a cash-based practice from the get-go?
I did, because I realized that if I tried to do insurance first and then change to a cash-based practice, that I would have a much more difficult time doing that. So with your support, I was able to actually open my practice straight away as a cash pay practice.
Right. And so you started from scratch. You started brand new, opened up your office, took out a loan, opened up your office. How long did it take you before you were breaking even and starting to make money or make a profit in your practice?
It took about 18 to 24 months.
Okay. And that's starting from scratch. Now, most of you listening to this podcast right now have a practice. You already have approximately, if you're the average doctor in America has somewhere in the neighborhood of about 1,500 to 2,000 current active patients. And so you already have a base to build a cash practice from. You can transition a small percentage of your current patients to a health and wellness part of your practice, and you can transfer them and they will pay you cash, and you can treat them the way you want to treat them because you're no longer going to bill insurance. And you say, well, I don't, all my patients are all on insurance and I'll lose all my patients. Well, that's what you want to do eventually. You want to take the cream of the crop, the people that are willing to pay you handsomely and compensate you for spending time with them and helping them get on a path of health and wellness naturally. There are people that will gladly pay you to do that because they're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And the more drugs they've received from you, they're getting sicker quicker. They know it and you know it, but you just don't know what to do about it because nobody has ever showed you any natural approaches to health. You're sure not going to get that in medical school. You're not going to get that at most of your conferences unless you go to something like the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine or some alternative medical conferences. You won't receive that. You're not going to get that in your journals. So, but you will find that these individuals will gladly pay you if you can get them feeling healthy and well naturally. Now, Sakina, yes. So you started off in a cash-based practice. Yes. Tell me, how hard was it to get people to compensate you for what you did? You obviously, it took you 18 months to turn a profit because you had to build up your clientele and you had your overhead. So you finally started making a profit at 18 months. This goes back to 2006. How has your practice grown since you opened it? We're saying you opened it in 2005?
Right. So I opened it right in the beginning of 2005, and
here we are 12 years later.
Right. So we opened with myself. I had one medical assistant. I had one registered nurse and an office manager. So I started with 4 to 5 employees, and now I have 20. So I've hired in a physician assistant, a nurse practitioner who I've trained, and then I have several more medical assistants, and of course have my front desk staff, and then have expanded that, and of course expanded my cosmetics side as well. So through each year, I was able to bring in more providers for ourselves as we started to grow our business. As far as how hard it is to get people to pay, I see so many people who have been to 10 and 15 doctors, and they're so frustrated. They just want to feel better, and they're happy to pay because they're just, like you said, they're so tired of being sick and tired. They're ready to feel better. So those patients are more than happy to pay. And I think initially it's a high investment, and they realize that. But then once we get them on track and they're feeling great, it's not much of an investment for them anymore. They're not taking all their prescription medications. They don't have to pay for all of those. They don't have to pay for sick visits. And they really end up, a lot of them transition to disaster-only insurance, and they do much better with that. So they're actually very happy once they follow our protocols.
Right. I'm sorry, you said they transfer to what type of insurance?
So they usually get only disaster-only
right.
insurance. So right, yeah. So they use their health savings accounts to cover a lot of the cost for the prescriptions and the supplements. But they in general end up not needing regular insurance because they're not sick.
Okay, so let's talk about the treatment program you've employed. Talking about your 4 or 5 point regimen. Tell us what you do, what a guest can expect. When they come in and you evaluate them, what are the major channels that you employ in treating your guests?
So we certainly look at hormones. So, of course, for women, we're going to check estrogen and progesterone, testosterone. For our male patients, of course, we're going to be looking at testosterone levels. We check thyroid. We check adrenal. We check vitamins. We check fasting lab work. We also check food allergies and promote the Candida diet, because 9 times out of 10, once they follow that, of course, everything else works so much better. So mainly, again, still following the same protocols that you taught me back in 2004. Right.
So you use a good, healthy eating program. You get them on a yeast-free eating program, and then once you transition them off a yeast-free, which, by the way, folks, yeast-free eating program is just eliminate sugars, eliminate simple carbohydrates. You've got to do that. Any sugar, whether it's from fruit or anything, you keep it out of the system because yeast grows on sugar, and so you eliminate that. What do they transition to then? To a paleo or to a ketogenic eating program? What do you do?
Right. So most of them all transition to one or the other. So it depends on their, what kind of medical conditions they have. But 99% of them, I try to keep them on a paleo diet.
Good. So you put them on a good, healthy eating program. Then you replenish the hormones.
Yes.
And you use natural bioidentical hormones.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Good. Progesterone, estrogen, and testosterone.
Right. And then, and are you surprised in the number of people who have the signs and symptoms of hypothyroidism, and yet they have normal blood tests according to their physicians who improve on thyroid?
Oh, it's still shocks me to today. I mean, even 13 years later, every time when I get them feeling better and they come back and their quality of life's better and they have energy and their hair is not falling out and they don't feel, they feel great. It's so rewarding to see that working.
And this is what we have taught our physicians in Houston, including Dr. Davis, and we'll teach you, is that what I believe is this, is if a person has the signs and symptoms of hypothyroidism, despite what the blood work may say, and you need to also check for autoimmune thyroiditis, check for antibodies to the thyroid gland. That's important. Very few doctors do that. But that being the case, if the blood levels fall within this wide range of normal and the patient or guest has all the symptoms or many of the symptoms and signs of hypothyroidism, it seems prudent to give them a therapeutic trial of natural desiccated thyroid. And we use natural thyroid, the desiccated thyroid, rather than the synthetic. And the reason we do that is because it works. And so we give that. And when if and when the patient improves, we know that was the problem. We're treating them clinically, not chasing blood work, because what happens routinely is the physicians, and what I think you used to do in the old days, Sakina, you check their blood work, everything was normal. And you give them an antidepressant, and that's what happens. Well, I guess you need an you must be a hypochondriac or something because you got too many problems and we can't find anything wrong with you.
Right, exactly.
So and then you use vitamins and minerals.
Absolutely.
Which help detox. And by the way, the whole program, the healthy eating, the hormone replenishment, the vitamin and mineral supplementation, and then an exercise program. We encourage, and I know Absolutely. You do, Dr. Sakina, on exercise. No, we don't tell our we don't tell our guests they have to run a marathon.
No.
But get out and walk a mile or two every day. Do something, or go to the gym. But you don't have to go crazy. Literally, if people will get out and walk a mile or two every day, that would dramatically improve their health. But the whole goal of this medical protocol is to stimulate energy production within the cells, within the mitochondria, the power plants of the body. And every cell has got mitochondria in it, and the heart cells have thousands in each cell. And the mitochondria produce the energy. So we want our patients to be high energy producers. We want them to be live wires. And most of the people we see here at the Hotze Health and Wellness Center, and you see, Sakina, that come into your center, and all you doctors, the people you see coming into your office are low energy producers. And that's because their hormones have declined, they're eating improperly, they're getting all kinds of chemicals in their system from the foods they eat, what they breathe, what they drink, what they slather on their bodies, plus the drugs they take are all toxins, and they adversely affect energy production within the cells. So we want to increase energy production, so that's why we use a simple 4-point regimen here: good, healthy eating lifestyle, and that can be initially yeast-free, then followed by a paleo or a ketogenic eating program, replenishment and balance of the natural hormones, utilizations of vitamins and minerals to help detox and to help the mitochondria produce energy, exercise, and then when indicated, we do here at our center, and I don't know if you do, Sakina, do you do any allergy testing and treatment?
Not for environmental. No, right. I do just the food. Yeah.
So, but we also offer that at the Hotze Health and Wellness Center. We do airborne and food allergy testing and treatment as well. But this is a simple program. Let me just ask you: once you start doing, how long did it take you to feel comfortable adopting these medical protocols, which you had never been taught before?
Well, since you gave me the hardest test I've ever taken, it took me, honestly, it took me about 3 to 6 months to get very comfortable. You putting those protocols in place where I didn't have to keep referring back. But as I said, that test was one of the most difficult ones I took. So I really knew my stuff before you let me go.
Well, that's right. And isn't it amazing when it took you three 3 to 6 months before you felt real comfortable. But what kind of response were you getting from your guests when you started to use this? When they came back in, what were they telling you?
They were so happy. So that's the most rewarding part to me, because in our traditional family practice, of course, we had all of 25 seconds to see a patient. We didn't have time to really establish a relationship. Basically walked in with a prescription in your hand, ready to give them something and get out the door. And now I get to go in there, spend some time getting to know them, getting to understand their family life, and all of that's important in everything that we do. And then really spending the time educating them on why we're doing what we're doing and why these things make sense. And most of them understand at that point, but they're just so happy to feel good, to have energy, to be able to think again, to be able to take care of their children. My very best patient is 78. She came in to see me. She was absolutely miserable. She couldn't do anything. She was hurting. She came in and she listened, and between 6 to 12 weeks later, she was a whole new person. Her entire family was just shocked. They came in and they said, "What did you do?" And they were and she today still doing the exact same thing. This has been about almost 2 years that she's been following this, and they can't even keep up with her now. And so they're just amazed at what difference it made just to put her on some hormones, correct her thyroid, and to get her on a better eating program.
Well,
honestly, my very, 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 very favorite story is that I really feel that I was destined to learn all this because my own daughter, who was a preemie. So I have a polycystic ovarian syndrome. I had a preeclampsia with her, had a tough delivery. About 10 years later, she developed autoimmune thyroid issues, and she also has features of polycystic ovarian syndrome. And thank goodness that I knew how to recognize that in her and tested her, and have been able to get her feeling so much better by treating her thyroid and correcting her eating. So that's been the most rewarding.
As a matter of fact, you've written a book.
I have, and really that was because I find that so many women and young girls, teenagers, exhibit the symptoms of PCOS and autoimmune thyroid issues, and I just want them to be able to know, what to be looking for. And so I wrote a very short, simple book that just identifies in very easy language for them to get that. And it's been amazing. I've had so many patients already come in from that who are just excited to know that someone understands what's going on with their body.
Right, and the title of the book is Unlocking the Mysteries of PCOS, Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome. Unlocking the Mysteries of PCOS. Where can someone purchase that book? Can they get it on Amazon?
We have not gotten it on Amazon yet. We're working on that, but right now it's available on our website. So
and that website is?
It's woodlandswellness.com.
Say it again, Woodlands?
Wellness.com.
Woodlandswellness.com. And that's to if you want to go look at Dr. Sakina Davis's website, this is what you can do. The reason I have Dr. Davis on is she's done exceptionally well, and she's just an average doctor like you or me. I don't mean that she's just an average person. She's bright. She went to medical school. She's no different than any one of you, and she was exposed to this opportunity. And the thing that I really admire about Sakina is that when the door knocked, or when opportunity knocked on the door, she opened it and let opportunity come into her life and took advantage of it. And that's what we want to be able to do. She was one of our first physicians here in Houston who's done very well. Now we want to train 5,000 physicians across the country to reach 3 million people. We want to help each one of these 5,000 doctors have a successful medical practice, and we want to coach them. I'm going to coach them on how to build a successful medical practice. And secondly, I want them to learn how to coach their patients onto a path of health and wellness naturally so they have energy in their lives as they mature, just like Dr. Davis has done with her patients. This is not rocket science. This is really straightforward medical protocols and the business protocols to go along operating a successful practice. What you're going to find is that when you adopt these medical and business protocols, your patients are going to do so very well, and they're going to enjoy a better quality of life, that they're going to gladly compensate you with cash for getting them on a path of health and wellness. And that is going to do three things in your life. One, it's going to give you more time, and it's going to give you more money, and it's give you more freedom to enjoy your life. So it's a win-win for everybody. I have a business coach, Dr. Davis, and he tells me this: whenever problems are solved, money exchanges hands. And when you solve a problem as a business person, and you're a doctor and you're a businesswoman, when you solve those patients come to you and they have health problems. And when you help solve those problems naturally and help them regain their energy and get their lives back, they're so happy they want to pay you for it. That's what's amazing. And most people don't understand this, but you've been a really wonderful example of this here in the greater Houston area, and a model that other doctors can use to build successful practices for themselves. So I thank you so much for sharing this with us today. Let me ask you one other thing.
Yes.
You've got friends, fellow colleagues that you've known for 15 or 20 years out in the Woodlands area.
Yes.
Tell me what your colleagues are telling you about medical practices and what they're experiencing, the ones that haven't, and most of them probably haven't switched to your model. What do they say?
Well, most of them are very frustrated. They're very sad about their, a lot of the private physicians have now been bought up by hospitals, and I've seen that happening over the last 3 to 4 years. And so everything is run by the hospital and the insurance companies. So now they're just like me, a part-time employee, basically, when I first started. So I think it's just evolved to something that they were not expecting. I think most physicians would tell you that they don't want their children to be physicians because the practice of medicine has just become such an uncertainty right now. And so I think unless they decide to do something like this, they're just very sad, very frustrated, pretty miserable.
What do they say about you? What do they tell you? I know you've got, like anybody, you go out and do something like this and you're very successful. Well, guess what? There are other people that wish they would have done it but didn't, and now they're detractors. Oh, we don't like that. She's gone out, you're going to have your detractors, not because you're not doing it. They're going to be detractors because you've done so well and they haven't. And this is what we call professional envy or professional rivalries, which we see. But so I'm sure there's some of that. There's that in Houston about my practice, and that's just the way you just take that with a grain of salt. Absolutely. But you have friends of yours that appreciate what you've done, and what have they told you about what they'd like to do? What do they tell you about what you've done?
Well, I think I think they're happy to see that we're still here. To be very honest, I think some of them didn't think we would succeed, so I think they're encouraged by that. And I've really gotten several referrals from some of the local physicians now that we've seen that we don't do anything that's going to kill somebody. I think they all got a little worried at first. They're like, "What is she doing? What is happening here?" But once they saw that we're following a very sound protocol and that we know what we're doing, we're educating our patients, and we're really changing so much of their lives. I think they've been a little bit better about adapting to that, referring patients in, and they're very happy to see that we're here because I think for some of them now that they're finding, that they get stuck somewhere, they have somewhere that they can refer their patients to. So things have definitely evolved in the last 13 years where they're much happier to actually have us in the community.
Well, Sakina, you're very well respected in the greater Houston area, and the people that know you, particularly those of us that practice natural approaches to health, admire you, and we congratulate you on having chosen to do a 180 and to take charge of your life. And it's made a big difference, and it's a great example, and I'm sure that what you've told us, there'll be thousands of doctors across the country that will hear you and want to do what you're doing and follow your example. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you. Again, I could have never done this without you, Dr. Hotze. So I very much appreciate all of your support and your help of you and your staff when I first started and up until now. And I really respect you for what you've been able to teach me. And I hope that a lot of the physicians out there will listen and know that there's a better way to practice medicine, and they'll just be happier, better people.
Well, good. Thanks again, Sakina. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you.
God bless you, and thank you for joining us today on Hotze Elite Physician Podcast. Look forward to visiting with you in the near future again. Thanks for joining us.
If you're ready to do a 180 and take charge of your practice and your life, make sure to visit HotzeElite.com for all the tools and resources you need to transition into a cash-based practice. More time, more money, and more freedom to enjoy your life is waiting for you at HotzeElite.com.
This podcast is solely for educational purposes.